gamify your remote classroom by learning how to do 2 types of digital escape rooms. The first type of digital escape room is the ones you see all the time on Teachers Pay Teachers that use Google Forms. And we're going to talk about how to make that. The one you just did is one from Teachers Pay Teachers, from a seller called the Great Classroom Escape. So I'm going to go through each step of how, when I plan out my escape rooms, just in general, even if I'm just making an escape room that is actually a physical escape room, the first thing you always need to do when you're making an escape room is you need to know what is the content objective of your escape room. What are you teaching? Are you teaching fractions? Are you teaching grammar? What are you going to teach in this escape room? And yes.
Can you explain to us that don't have experience with an escape room what an escape room is?
Yes, I can. So an escape
you die if you don't get out, Ben.
What?
I said you die if you don't get out.
Yeah,
That was to Ben.
That's what happens. So an escape room basically is a bunch of puzzles. They can be questions, any type of question or puzzle that you would like them to do. And to be able to get to each next step, you have to unlock something. The ones we're doing today are going to be linear, meaning that the first escape room, should I say, is going to be linear, where you have to go in order of the questions to be able to escape. So you have to go to one to then get to the other one. The second type of escape room is not going to be that. It's going to be non-linear because you can get the different clues at different times to then be able to escape. So for this one, the first thing, like I said, you figure out your objective. And then after that, you need to be able to figure out what is the scenario story of your escape room. I think, can everyone just make sure they're on mute so that there's no background?
Sorry. Yes.
Okay. What is the scenario story of your escape room? You want to get a good story to hook the audience. So I'm going to be real honest, as a math teacher, this is going to be my excuse. I feel like making my stories is not the best suit. So maybe Karen would be better as an ELA teacher making up this. But there is a ton online. And I gave you a couple storylines that you could use and edit. Like I have one here that says, the sheriff has locked your group up. I think you are the notorious math game. The sheriff has left you alone in your cell. Luckily, the real math game has brought you a way to break out. They hid clues around the room so the sheriff and his deputies wouldn't easily discover their plan. Solve the clues and you'll earn your freedom. So in this one, you're in jail and you're trying to get out of jail. Then I have another one about an alien. The alien has one last trick up his sleeve. He found an evil scientist who made a deadly virus and infected the room. The minute you walk in the room, you have been infected. The only cure is hidden and locked in this room. Solve the clues to find the antidotes. Your beloved Aunt Alma has left her inheritance to you. However, to be able to get their inheritance, you need to solve all the puzzles. Can you solve the puzzles to get your inheritance? So there's different ones you can do. I won about a local bank and trying to get money. I won it with Gigi, who lost his passport. Can you help Gigi find the passport in the room? And the one today that I'm just going to use as our scenario is 4 people were detained at the airport. They were suspected of espionage and selling government secrets to China. Boris, Julius, Natasha, and Ethel were the suspects. Can you identify the spy by going through the puzzles? So we're going to use that one today as our scenario. Feel free, if you ever make an escape room, to use these. Again, there's tons online, and you might be a little bit more creative than I am with the hook in the scenario. Step 2 of your escape room is brainstorming types of questions. Are you going to use MCAS questions? Are you going to use a worksheet? Do you have videos? Do you have stories with comprehension questions? What types of questions do you want on this? I suggest making a Google Doc with the scenario and the questions in order of what ones you want them to do. So that's just easier when you're starting to make your Google form of the escape room that it's already ready to go. But then comes the fun part. Step 3 is making the escape room. So what we're going to do is we're going to start a Google form. And for those of you who were at Karen's Google form presentation yesterday, I get to my Google Forms a little bit differently. I always go through my Google Drive. And when I get to my Google Drive, I just make a new Google form. So the first thing I'm going to do in my form is I'm going to title it. And so today was just a demo. I'm going to say digital escape room demo. And then when I do that, if I just click here, it does the same title for the title of the whole document. I'm then going to change the theme of my escape room to make it more authentic when students are getting into it. As you saw with the airplane one, they had all airplanes everywhere. So I really want to make my escape room scary. So I'm going to go to customize theme, which is a little thing up here. And I'm going to choose an image that I already have on my computer. And I'm going to use this cute little lock thing for my escape room cover. And I'll put you guys up here. And when I do that, you'll see now that my cover is that picture right up here. And you'll notice the themes, the colors also change with that. So if I want to, they usually go with the picture. So I can then make it a little bit more dark for the escape room. And I also can change my fonts if I like to. And maybe I want a playful type of font for my escape room. The next thing I'm going to do is change the settings in my escape room. So I went to customize theme, and the other thing I'm gonna do is settings. Now in the settings, I can decide if I want the response for them to get a receipt after they submit. I usually want that, the students to get an email. I can limit to 1 response, and I can limit to just the Amesbury schools. I usually don't let them edit after submit for a digital escape room. For the presentation, this is where it's important, the confirmation message. When they submit the form at the very end, when they get out of the escape room, this is what they'll see. So I'm going to say here, congratulations. Congrats, you have escaped. And so when they finish the escape room, that's what they're going to see. So that's kind of the biggest thing in the settings that you would want. Just so when they finish that escape room, they get a cute little message for them that's customized to them. So
Jen, can I ask a quick question?
Yes, you can.
Are you making it a quiz or not making it a quiz?
I'm not making it a quiz. Nope.
Okay, so you don't need that setting on.
I don't need that setting because if you make it a quiz, the kids can go to each question and they don't have to get it correct. In an escape room,
okay.
you want them to be able to have to get it correct before they move on to the next question. And that's
so obviously when you make the form, you're going to make sure you have the correct answer
right there for it.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. And I'll definitely get into that to show you how to do that. Yeah, no problem. So we changed the setting, we changed the theme, and now I'm going to add our scenario to this. So our scenario, like I said, we're going to be using, I just had to keep moving you guys' pictures, is this 4 people. And then I'm going to go back into my form. So you'll see in your form, I had to keep moving you guys. You'll see in your form that there's already a question here. I just delete this because what I want is really the text. I don't need a question right now because I'm just updating the scenario. So I then take that text and put the scenario, copy and paste it in there. You also can do a form description if you want here to say, to tell you kids the directions, like please answer questions. You can't move on until you get them correct, or however you want to say that to students so they know also right there. The other thing I want to add here, again, to make it more authentic and more with the theme, is I'm going to go to add an image. And I'm going to go to my uploads, and I made an image for this. So the image I want to grab is them at the airport. So I have my 4 suspects at the airport. I just did this in Google Slides and then uploaded it as an image. So I have the background of the airport, and then I just found these characters online and did it in a Google slide presentation and made it an image. So I want that after. So you can see in Google Forms, you can move things however you want. So I have my scenario, I have my picture, and then what's the other next step I want to show, and add more. Okay, so from here, I usually, and as you saw in the settings, I am collecting email addresses, which means if I'm collecting email addresses, I should know who's using the form, but I still get nervous, and I usually then also add a question here of type your first and last name.
You know what, Jen, that's like super important, just because there was one week I thought I was getting like a little cocky with the forms and I knew what I was doing, like 3 weeks or 4 weeks in. And I didn't collect the email addresses, and I was so grateful they put their name on it. Cause if you forget to hit one button, it can mess up the collection. And I did that, but I was so grateful I had their first and last name as the first question.
Yes.
When I first started using these forms, I had 30 kids submit with no names on it. It took me 2 weeks to straighten out whose writing was whose. It was a nightmare.
It is.
Absolute nightmare.
It is.
Oh,
And you
God.
do collect email addresses, like I said, but I like to have that confirmation that you have it. And you'll see in that one you guys just did, the escape room, got a confirmation code. So if you want to do that, you want to make they just took it another step to make it more authentic. You can definitely do that, but I like to add my first and last name. So this is my first section of my escape room. I want to add a new section to the escape room. Why I would do that is because when you press next on a Google form, that means I'm going into a new section, and I want to separate out each of these pages. So for instance, if I showed you what it looks like right now, you'll see I have what my email address is, the directions, the scenario, the picture, typing in the answer. That's required, so I need to put my name in. And then I go to next, and now I'm in the new section of my escape room. So that's pretty important. So then I'm going to go to my next section, and sometimes people like to type in things here for what the section's called, just to make it more authentic. But that's totally up to you. So what I'm going to be doing next, make a new section, is adding questions in. So the first question I'm going to do, I'm going to press the little add question button here in my section. I'm going to make it real easy, even for people who aren't math people. I'm going to say, what's 1 + 1? So in any escape room that I make, I always make them short answers. And I will explain later why that is. But I write short answer. Now what I do to make sure they have to get it correct before they move on to the next section is I go to the 3 dots right here. I press that, and I press what's called the response validation. With the response validation, you can have numbers, you can have text, you can decide if you want them to have a certain length, you want them to have expression. So in this one, we're just going to be using a number. And I'm not going to say greater than or less than. I want whatever their answer is to be equal to it. Says they have to get that answer to be able to move on. So number equal to, again, I got that right from here, response validation, and the answer is 2. So I put the answer in there. Like I said, it's this number. And here you'll see, and it's very faint, it says custom error text. So when you guys, I know that Karen said when she did that digital escape room for the students, it said you didn't put a $sign in. The person was able to do that because they put a custom error text right here. So I could say here, try again. So if they get it incorrect, I can put what you get as a red, bold thing to you to make sure you get it correct. So let me show you what that looks like. So now when I preview up here, I see my digital escape room. I gotta put my name in, and then I get this 1 + 1. So when I press in 4 and I press enter, they say try again. So when I put in 2, I now submitted my form. And remember how I said in the settings, this is where they see the congrats, you have escaped.
Jen, can I ask a quick question about that? So like in language arts, when I did this one day, I wanted an exact answer and I was just looking for one word.
Yes.
And then I found out that like some kids put a capital letter on it. It didn't necessarily need a capital letter, but they did, and then they got it wrong. Or some kids, God love them, they know that I make them rephrase the question. So they actually, instead of putting it, didn't follow the directions exactly. Instead of writing the one word, they rephrased the question and put the word at the end.
Yep.
And it was automatically wrong. But then I'm more worried about like they can't move on to the next one, but they put a capital letter on it. Like, can you do a variety of choices for answers? You know what I'm trying to say?
With the short answers, the short answer to that is no. So
Okay.
the next question, I'm going to do a text, so I'll show you what I mean. So when I add a new section again, because I want a new section for the next question. The next question I'm going to do is going to be this question. It says, order the fish least to greatest to answer the joke. Where do fish keep their money? So they're going to get this image as their question. So I'm going to show you what that looks like, and then that's going to answer your question too, Karen.
Okay.
So if somebody spelled TWO, would
Right.
they say wrong, try again? And then-
Yes. And I can
So-
show you two ways you can go around. Well, not two ways. I'm going to show you either you can't do that and you have to give them an error message that tells them why they're incorrect, or you have to make it a multiple choice question, and I'll show you how to do a multiple choice question with this as well. So I put the question in, and then I want the image. So you'll notice next to the picture, there's always a little picture icon right there. So I use this a lot with math because for the math quizzes, if there's like a fraction or exponents, I always have to upload that image to make it a question. So I always press this image button. So then I get my question, and then you'll see I have the question and the picture right here. So again, I just press this little icon to get that picture. So then to answer Karen's question, I want to go again to response validation. I want to do text. I want it to say it contains. And the answer to this one is riverbank. So what I always do if I have text is I make it all capital. And then when I have a custom text, I say try again, make sure it's capitalized. So
Okay.
again, you might have issues with spelling and you might have issues with them not capitalizing something, but it has to be exactly the same or it will not work. So that will be an issue that you run into.
So you could say, try again. It's possibly spelling. You didn't rephrase the, like I could put a little list.
You can, yeah, you can write as much as you want in this area to
Okay.
make sure that they know that. Yes.
Okay.
Why is it all caps?
I just do all caps because, I mean, you could do all lowercase too. You could say, make sure it's all lowercase. I just think sometimes it's easier to like make it all capitalized. So I find it easier for students to do. If you think it's easier for students to do all lowercase, you can also put here, make sure it's all lowercase. It's totally up to you.
Would it be wrong if they did capital R and then all lowercase for the rest? You know?
Yes, and I can show you. So when I go to preview for this, oh, I need to go back to my settings. I said that you can only have one. I limited it to one, so I won't limit it to one. Preview. I put a name in. I can put my 2 in. And this is a question. So if I did riverbank, like you're saying, and I try to submit that, try again, make sure it's capitalized. And then if I did it all lowercase, it's not, it won't let me do it until I say riverbank like that.
Some of the, I'm just thinking of like special ed kids, especially, you know, it is capitalized. You know, what do you mean capitalized? You know, like,
That is true. So the other thing you could do is you can make it a multiple choice question. So for these 2 questions you saw, what I did is I did a short answer and I always did response validation. You can obviously do a multiple choice question as well. Oops, let me move this to that section. I could do a multiple choice question. And when I do a multiple choice question, I'm gonna say what, 3 plus 4. I'm gonna say 2, 7, 9, 6. And when you do a multiple choice question, what you're gonna still do is you're gonna go down to the 3 dots and you're gonna say, go to section based on answer. I'll do that again. I went to the 3 dots and I said, go to section based on answer. And since the correct answer is 7, I'm gonna say, that one's gonna say continue to next section. For the other ones, I can just say, we're in section 4. So I'm just gonna say, go to section 4, go to section 4. So that when they hit it, it makes them stay in that section. So this is where you could put the words in. If you wanted to make sure they were spelling the words correctly, you could do it here. So I'll show you the one thing about this, why I usually do short answers. And I'll preview and I'll show you what that looks like. 2. Riverbank. Next. And then when I do this and I press 9, sometimes the kids will be like, it's not working, because you don't think they don't notice that up top it's working. It's just not letting them go back because there's no error message telling them they're wrong until they try all of them, if that makes sense. So that's how you do a multiple choice question instead of a short answer, if you don't like that it has to be exactly how you wrote it in. So there's those types of questions you can do. I showed you the 1+1 with the response validation. I showed you how to add a picture if you wanted to add a picture with it. And I showed you how to do a multiple choice if you decided that a multiple choice would be better for you as well. The other thing you could add is sometimes people want to do locks. So maybe you want an up and down lock. And I forgot to show you too, with this, sometimes people want to add pictures with it as well. So again, I could just add image. And I have a GIF that I have on my images. And sometimes people like to put these images with it so that it's just more, again, it's about being more authentic. So I have the question, I'm trying to unlock the lock. So you have a cute little lock here to make them be able to move on.
Hey, Jen, have you ever run into the computer saying, or I should say the form saying an image is too big? I had that problem once.
Really? No, I've not had that problem. No. Did you get it off the internet?
Yeah, it was something I got off the internet and I couldn't get it to go in.
It must have been the pixels. Sometimes if you do that, sometimes I go into Paint and I try to change the pixels to be a less resolution. The last thing I'm going to show you also is sometimes you might want a video for your escape room. Sometimes you might be asking a question about a video. In this case, I have a video that is just a good thing to get students excited about the escape room. Now, this morning you saw Allison's presentation, if you were there, about how to do video editing. So if you can't find a video online that you like, you could obviously make your own escape room video to get students excited about it. So I'm going to copy this URL and go back into the escape room. And I actually want that video in the beginning when they're just starting. So I'm going to press down on that. And I'm going to go to the video button. And I'm going to get the URL. And I'm just going to type that URL in and select it. And so now the video is there. So when I preview, the kids see the video with the scenario as well, which is kind of cool. It just, again, sets it up for them. Okay, what else? The video. So the other last thing about the escape room that I would want to show you is if you want a co-collaborator, you press on these 3 dots and add a collaborator here. What's also important, I feel like people get this confused, this send button. If I press the send button and I get my link, this is for these students. They'll get the form, but not going to get the teacher perspective, which you don't want them to get the teacher's perspective anyway. So this is where you set it for students. If I want collaborators, I add collaborators here.
And collaborators are strictly teachers, right? That's not something you want the students to do.
No, you don't want the students to see this. So it would be definitely strictly for teachers. The other important thing to know about that as well is when you, on Google Forms, the one negative about Google Forms is if I delete anything here, like say I deleted this video, it does not come back. There's no history on this. So once you delete something, you can't get it back until you put it back, you add it back in. If you have a co-collaborator who like messes something up on here, you have to go back and kind of figure out what that mistake was. Like in a Google Doc, I could go back into history and try to go back to a different version. And Google Forms is no old versions to go back to.
You know, I'm to the point where I feel like I need to find a student I trust with my life. Like I wish my son was still in school and I could send everything to that person and they could say, this is what I'm seeing. You know, it's this level of paranoia about what you're sending out. And you're like, oh dear God, please let this be right. You know, because it's like, uh-oh, if these kids get the wrong thing,